Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Best Practices for Implementing Virtualization to Meet IT Challenges. My name is Patrick, and I'll serve as your moderator today. Before we get started, I'd like to give you a few instructions regarding the Q&A process that will happen at the end of today's presentation. Be sure that you've submitted all of your questions in the Q&A section, as questions submitted in the chat area may be missed. And just a reminder, you can submit your questions at any point during today's presentation. And for technical assistance today, please send me a private chat by selecting host in your chat area. If you're having trouble with audio today, please let me, the host, know immediately to assist you with your options. And finally, a full archive of this presentation will be available at a later date, along with a slide PDF version of this presentation. We'll also have an exit survey at the end of today's webinar. We'd appreciate your feedback. And so today's webinar is titled Best Practices for Implementing Virtualization to Meet IT Challenges, brought to you by Government Health IT, HIMSS, Appsense, and MTM. Appsense is the leading name in user virtualization solutions to businesses worldwide. They enable organizations to manage all aspects of user independently of the desktop and apply this information into any desktop locally installed, virtualized, published, or streamed on demand. The Appsense user virtualization platform enables IT to standardize the desktop build, automate desktop and application delivery, and migrate users to new desktops, all while ensuring the user experience is seamless, personal, predictable, and easily manageable. MTM is the leading national provider in innovative IT solutions and services to Global 2000 and mid-sized companies. Partner with the top-tier technology providers, and with offices from coast to coast, their unique solution-based methodology combined with experience and expertise has enabled thousands of industry-leading organizations to effectively address their business needs, optimize the returns on their IT investments, mitigate risk, and focus on growth and profitability. MTM supports Kuwait on their Cisco Citrix infrastructure, as well as helping them with critical needs around security, access, and virtualization. We have with us today Nick Volosin and Stephen Carnes of Kuwait Health Care District. Nick has 20 years of experience in IT, including 17 years at Kuwait Health. He has certifications in Cisco, Citrix, Microsoft, and VMware. In his current role as ISS Director of Technical Services, Nick oversees implementation and operations of information technology and infrastructure, including telecommunications. Stephen has 11 years of experience in IT, including 9 years at Kuwait Delta. He has certifications in Cisco, Citrix, Microsoft, and VMware. In his current role as IT Administrator, Stephen is responsible for servers and virtualization. Stephen has just joined the Apex team as Senior Systems Engineer. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to Nick to get us started.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us. We'll present some information about our desktop virtualization journey, and we have some demonstrations at the end. Kuwait Delta has been on a steady growth over the past 15 years, much like many organizations in healthcare. Kuwait Delta is in the heart of San Joaquin Valley, which has been called the breadbasket of the world. We serve primarily Tulare and Kings County, which is a rich agricultural area, and we have more cows than people. But they're happy cows because most of them are dairies. As centralized virtual desktop and application computing becomes more mainstream, the opportunity to improve the user's experience while reducing costs and achieving higher service levels has never been more advantageous. With Appsense, the user's personal settings and preferences are available to follow the user with whatever desktop technology you will be providing the user. This includes physical desktops, Zen App, Windows XP or Windows 7 delivered either Zen Desktop or VMware View, and terminal services. Appsense allows us to have the user environment be independent of the OS layer and allows policies, registry settings, drive and printer mappings, and application shortcuts to be controlled by Active Directory membership. This means that during the migration from Windows XP to Windows 7, you can have their personalized settings follow them between those two environments. This allows us to have a consistent user experience regardless of the endpoint device, whether it's PC, thin client, iPad, Android, or any other connected device. Wireless technology offers doctors, nurses, and other clinicians timely access to point-of-care and mission-critical applications, both in the hospital and at the remote locations and their private practices. Manhattan research found that 64% of physicians used a smartphone in 2009. That's 20% more than physicians in 2008. The firm predicts that 81% of physicians would be using smartphones by the year 2013. According to Pyramid Research, more than 200 million mHealth applications are in use, and that number is expected to increase threefold by 2012. Healthcare solutions that are delivered via anywhere, any device, mobile technology are creating a new frontier in innovation that's increasing access, driving down costs, and improving patient care. For example, 89% of healthcare organizations have some percentage of their employees working away from the office at least one day a week, while 87% of healthcare organizations have some percentage of workers telecommuting from home at least one day per week. And more than 50% have some segment of workers telecommuting at least 4 days per week. To support this mobile work style, which has been referred to as work shifting, 95% of these enterprises have users relying on mobile phones, PCs, tablets to get their work done. So, and a little bit about our journey of our migration from traditional desktops to where we are today. This is a snapshot of where we were back in 2007. So we were delivering to remote offices using Citrix presentation server, which is now the XenApp server, and it was primarily just for physician access. And we would just have about 200 concurrent connections and delivering 40 apps. Inside of our walls, we had traditional PCs and used Alteris for our application deployment and management of the desktop, and rely on GPOs. And so back then we had over 1,700 PCs with a mix of Windows 2000 and XP. And of course, with traditional PCs, you have issues about consistency, that the PC is too old, it's the network, I need the latest version. And so dealing with all those complexities and having multiple standards and variations, so always putting out fires and not being able ever to get in front of the desktop experience. So as we look for a new way, and with the mainstream of virtual desktops and applications, we were looking at how can we maximize the use of our existing hardware, leverage our knowledge and investment we already had with Citrix, so to make it scalable, and then make it easy to manage that environment. And in line with that, we always have our vision statement for our information management division that we always try to align all of our projects and processes through, and so it's having the 6 rights. So definitely virtualization, and as well as wireless, mobile device is all in alignment with these 6 rights. As we had other virtualization, virtualized servers, virtualized storage with a SAN, and now virtualizing the desktop, they all have common themes, and we don't do it just because it's cool and this latest thing. So it has these values of always trying to maximize the investment, reducing the total cost of ownership, centralized management so we can manage it all inside of our data center, making it more secure, providing that resiliency and high availability to our end users, and streamlining the deployment process, so making it easy to, when we have a new clinic or we have a refresh of a new environment, we can just easily deploy it as easy as we were able to deploy voice over IP phones, and then have it automatically be able to load balance and be able to, when you do have hardware failures, that the users are able to reconnect and resume their applications and still access patient information. So another part of our challenge was our growth. And so with projects and construction expansion, with like barcode medication, CPOE, pressure of bring your own device, like the iPad and Android devices. It all kind of, the timing all fit in alignment with providing this environment, but we also then needed to make sure we had a good way to manage that environment and provide consistent look and feel. And in that, we really looked at all of our infrastructure to make sure all our environment could support it, so we're not putting a good technology relying on a bad foundation. So all this technology is only as good as your weakest link. So you have to have a good network, wireless and wired, Active Directory, storage. It all has to be secure, so you have to go through firewalls and access gateways to provide that level of security. And in our journey, we first put out thin clients while we were using virtualization to streamline having that golden image, that vDisk. We were still setting up a shared desktop, where this is how it was with the traditional PCs. And so now we're migrating, starting with physicians, and now we're doing with nurses. We're moving from device-centric desktops to user-centric. So bringing that personalization a step further and able to reduce costs. So at a typical med-surg unit, we have about 55 devices on a 34-bed unit, because we have a device in every room for the barcoding and plus what's out in the nursing station and document areas. And so by going user-centric, we're going to be able to have, it's only on concurrent users in that unit. So instead of 55 desktop spinning, it'll be at the peak probably 15. And so, and then providing that single instance of desktop per concurrent user, having it follow them with technologies like TapNgo with proximity reader, being able to go from station to station right where they left off. And part of our analysis, we were looking at the difference, for server-based computing, which is XenApp and terminal server, versus VDI, View, and Zen Desktop. And we find that we have a mix, so it's not always a one-size-fits-all, so we kind of really rely on that FlexCast model of having what's the best product for the end users and also getting the best return on our investment. So currently, we have most of our task workers, like nurses, using the server-based computing, so using XenApp, delivering a published desktop. And then with our power users, that's where we're using Zen Desktop, so we can deliver a full Windows 7 experience. So today's environment, we're currently about 50-50 as an organization. We're about 70-30 in our clinical areas on having it thin, virtualized versus traditional PCs. We've increased our our endpoint devices from 1,750 to 2,500 over the last 4 years, and a lot of that with our medication and our CPOE projects. We are delivering all these desktops and applications using 33 physical servers, which is providing 180 XenApp servers and 200 Zen desktops. It's fully redundant. We have redundant provisioning servers providing the streaming of the vDisk, and we have the Citrix access gateway doing the security. So from 200 Citrix connections, we're now at 1,350 plus concurrent connections, and delivering, we're 40 applications now. It's over 130 applications in that virtual environment. So some of the benefits we found is we've been able to increase our devices by 30%, and we found that we didn't increase our calls to our help desk. We didn't have to increase staff. Our ticket volumes, we're finding that because of the standardization and the high reliability of the thin clients, by not having a fan or hard drive, we're reducing on-site calls and dealing more with just education and application issues. With the Citrix, we're able to give that any device anywhere. So we can provide it on an iPad, Android, and then with Appsense we were able to reduce our login times when they connect to a new desktop by 30 seconds. And then we were able to give a predictable user environment, so having that consistent feel all tied back to Active Directory, where we can lock down the desktop as much as we want locked down and personalize it as much as we want to have the user personalize it. Again, by Active Directory group membership, we can provide and take away that access. All the changes happen in one place. So we have the Appsense console, which we'll be demonstrating later. We can change it there, and it automatically rolls out to the whole environment, whether it's Citrix or physical PCs. You can associate the configuration to multiple platforms. Again, we can customize it or make it non-customizable by user in Active Directory. And so we've been able to reduce our deployment of PCs by half versus the traditional PC method. And what it allowed us to do is be able to transform 3 of our desktop FTEs from a hardware-based duties to now end-user support to help us with our CPOE rollout and other meaningful use applications. So to provide 24/7 on-site access, and where we had people on call before. So we branded the environment, calling it MyKD, so My Kuya Desktop, and we did that, started in 2009. And the goal was to create this personal desktop. And again, we started with physicians because there are most mobile users inside and out, and then with the launch of the iPad, it fit very well. So what it's allowing us to do with Appsense is get them into the desktop, sign in as them. We were able to implement single sign-on using Citrix Password Manager and give that smooth roaming from device to device. It also allowed us, because now the user was logging into the desktop with their Active Directory credentials, to easily implement Outlook and SharePoint, where before having them logging into a Outlook Web Access portal or SharePoint portal was cumbersome because it was another sign-in they had to remember, and now they can have all those applications automatically start up when they connect and be there already signed in, minimized, and have that whole desktop secure versus worrying about individual application security. So this is a snapshot of screenshot of like my personal desktop, and so we're able to deliver this desktop, pulling information from our HR system to automatically, put a customized background on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a little demo now here. Bear with me while I switch to demo mode. So this is an iPad Apple II, and so using Citrix Receiver, I'm able to connect to different virtual desktops. So I have a test one. Let me go into prod, and a production one. And so what it will allow me to do is to continue to that desktop right where I left off. And so by doing that, we're able to reconnect people usually within under 3 seconds. And again, they'll continue, their applications will be right where they left off. We're able to implement things like single sign-on. So we're a Siemens Sorian shop, and so we're able to easily implement the scripting, which is very important, especially with iPad and tablet implementation, to reduce extra keystrokes and eliminate the on-screen typing. So they're able to just get into the application, pick a patient, zoom in, pull up their lab results, zoom out. And what I'm able to do is I'm actually able to, this is an iPad, but I could just disconnect from this device, and then I can bring up a thin client. I'm gonna share a different. Okay, so I'm using this VNC to remote into a thin client, and so we have our customized TapNgo application that allows us to either type in our username and credentials or use a proximity card, which I'm just going to tap in, and it will connect us again within the 2 seconds. It's going to format to the different resolution, and again, I'm right where I left off with the same applications open. And so with Appsense, some of the benefits is being able to push these application icons so that from Active Directory and make them consistent. And one thing we did, which was a simple process in Appsense that's called self-healing, is we're able to make icons be pretty persistent. So if someone was to actually delete an icon to their medication system, usually within 5 seconds, it'll pop back up. So that's just one little trick, but it's been very valuable. There's a lot of calls to help desk are I can't find the icon, so I can't get to the program and give patient care. So that allows us to be able to provide that consistent desktop to our end users. And then again, with single sign-on, we're able to bring applications like the Sorian, even other business applications like being able just to clock in, clock out into the PeopleSoft or Kronos applications, easily able to have that single sign-on experience. Okay, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen Carnes, who's going to do a demonstration of the Appsense Environment Manager.
Thanks a lot, Nick. Yeah, I just want to show you guys kind of a brief demo of really how we deliver everything to the user and how Appsense really helps with that. So everything Nick showed you kind of in his brief demo, once he landed to the desktop, is really delivered by Appsense, and that whole environment is delivered by what they call Environment Manager, and a piece that we use heavily at CWIA. So let me go ahead and just share the configuration here, and I'll give you a brief demo of kind of how we set things up. And you know, we're open to questions at the end, so if you have any technical questions, go ahead and ask away. We'll try to do our best to answer it. So what you're seeing here is the Appsense Environment Manager and the configuration screen. So it kind of shows you how you know, how basic and how complex you can build your config to your environment. So kind of the way we did it was we use a lot of login-based scripts. So once the user starts the login process, his additional you know, I guess conditions apply to him. So for example, in the parentheses, we have an Active Directory group. So VDI basic. So everybody that gets a virtual desktop essentially belongs to VDI basic. So, and then from that Active Directory group, certain things happen once that user logs in. So we're able to push standard desktop icons, you know, map drives, set different registry policies, redirect folders, and so on. There's a number of different actions and conditions you can do things on with Appsense Environment Manager. I really think that this is the, you know, the key to providing a personalized, flexible, but still controlled back-end environment to the users. Without this piece, I really don't think we could have delivered, you know, what we did in a timely, efficient manner. Especially, you know, for example, when the iPad was released, we were able to deliver a desktop right to the iPad on day one. So, I mean, having this, you know, flexible environment really, you know, works wonders in delivering clinical tool set to doctors. So, the way it's broken up is, you know, we have the basic group, and then we have department groups. So, this is every department inside the hospital, because each department does have specific apps and, you know, application requirements, registry keys, map drives, and whatnot. So, we really want to personalize it to that department. So they don't just get the standard applications and standard printers. So as you can see here, for example, if you belong to our ER department, you get everything in basic, so you get our standard apps and whatnot. And then you also get everything that belongs to ER. So, you know, all their shortcuts and map drives and the registry keys and any other action that you want to throw at it. And you can really drill down into it. So it's not all about user profile management and whatnot, but you can really standardize it even at this level. So for example, if this thin client user right here, this one specific user needs a different printer mapped to make it their default. We can set that here on the back end, and the client just has to re-log in to get that printer as default. So it's really saving us time and efforts on the front end to deliver this type of deal. So our desktop support technicians no longer have to manually work on hardware-related issues. Now they're more focused on software and just customer service and support. So the back end is really controlled by this piece and a few other pieces of our environment, but I really want to focus on Appsense today. So it just really allowed us to move forward in an efficient manner. Let's see if I can show you a few more things here. So to add a group, right? So, for example, if we push out a new application to ER, right, and somebody in cardiovascular needs that application, well, obviously that's not going to be underneath their department group because it's an ER application. So what we also did was every application that we use in the hospital, we create a separate AD group. So, for example, that 2 East user or that a cardiovascular user can be added to that ER application without affecting anybody else in his department. So setting up this type of granularity really comes key in a lot of situations where, if you have a roaming doctor or a roaming nurse going from department to department, or where you want to set up things that you don't want to give everybody else. So you can still personalize the desktop, but you have control of it. So when we really want to push out that standard desktop to the users, that lockdown environment, and just giving them the tools that they need. And then for more high, flexible users, we want to deliver that Zen desktop, which is a more personalized feel to it, background changes and whatnot. But for the clinical tool set, we really want to deliver just the tools that they need to get the job done. That way everybody has the same experience going from room to room, which there's a thin client delivered in each room, or going to the nursing station, in another department, or wherever on any device. So having this enables all of that. Let's see. Oh, yeah, here's something pretty cool. We've all been there to where we see complex Microsoft GPOs. We can never find what we want and where it is. So if I want to change something in Internet Explorer, for example, something in Internet Explorer, it's a hard thing to find group policies and implementing them without affecting the whole environment. So what Appsense did, and this is kind of a neat feature, is you're able to import group policies and push them out based on user without affecting the whole domain or entire OU or getting inside that complex environment. So for example, here's a little get to the lockdown policy here, and I'll show you how the GPOs work. It's pretty neat. So this is something Microsoft, I think, probably needs to implement. But here you have the GPO in a searchable format. So if I just type in Internet, it pulls up all the GPOs that apply to Internet. And it's as simple as that. And we can enable it right here and push it out to a set of users based on AD. So, for example, if our help desk calls or somebody calls the help desk and says, hey, this user is getting to unauthorized access on IE, make sure proxy is pushed out to that specific group or users. We could set that GPO here, and we can add it to an AD group and just give the ability to our help desk to have that user added to an AD group, and off they go. So no longer is it a complex deal to, get somebody a GPO pushed to them that affects their work. So it really enables us to leverage technology on the back end where it frees users on the front end to get their job done and not have to worry about all this stuff, because for the most part they don't care if it's virtual or fat, they just want it to work. So having this flexible environment where we can control it and give it to the user in an efficient and available manner is so key. And it's allowed us to roll out 1,000+ thin clients without adding additional staff. So our former desktop support are again focused on software and application support instead of hardware. And then now we can control 2,000, 3,000 devices just from one screen. And it's it's just really handy. I really don't think we could do it without Appsense. And this same type of config can also be applied to published applications. So when a user launches a published application, you can do different things here. So or for example, this is a pretty hot deal to where you want location-based printing, right? So you have one platform to say, if a user reconnects from this specific physical computer name, then map this printer. Or if he reconnects from this IP address, map this printer. So now a doctor can go from ER to cardiovascular and map his printer upon reconnection. So that printer is going to follow him wherever he goes. And then obviously his applications will still be open and whatnot. So he's able to go anywhere at any time and still have the same access. So that's the piece I really wanted to show you, and I really wanted to dive in. So, please, if you have any questions, feel free, and we'll do our best to answer them and get you squared away. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the questions screen here, and go ahead and ask away.
All right, thank you very much, both Nick and Stephen, for that great presentation and those fantastic demos as well. Just a reminder before we move into the Q&A section, a full archive of this presentation will be available at a later date along with a PDF slide version of today's webinar. I'm also opening an exit survey, and we'd appreciate any feedback you have for today's presenters. You'll see that appearing momentarily. And with that, we'll go ahead and move into the Q&A section. Please remember to submit all of your questions into the Q&A panel, as questions submitted into the chat area may be missed. So we'll go ahead, and the first question I see that's coming here is, can user virtualization help with ensuring the availability of mission-critical clinician desktops and applications in such cases as disaster recovery?
I'll take that one. I think with the increasing dependency on having availability of information, especially patient information, user virtualization can have that strategic goal of the business continuity. So you can have, anywhere access provides you the mechanism to be able to have, if you need to redeploy workstations or use laptops or even iPads, we use those in our command center, instant command center now. We have iPads, and they're able to access patient information and looking up census. So I think by its nature of being virtual and being able to have anywhere, any device access, it definitely does help in disaster recovery situations.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. We got another question that came in. It looks like it came in during the demo. What made you decide to organize your configuration this way?
I'll go ahead and take that one. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, we really wanted to put it in a way to where we can give authority to the help desk and make it simple for them. So, and organizing it in the way we did, it enables the help desk just to add users to groups quickly. So, if somebody calls, the help desk adds them to an ER group, and they get everything in that group. when they log off and log back on. So in developing it that way, we were able to really reduce call times and troubleshooting times and even tickets in that manner. So that's why we developed it in that in that way. So.
Okay, great. Next question is, besides improving logon times, how has user virtualization improved your clinicians' user experience and productivity?
I think with the anywhere access, we're using IT to provide that workflow, that availability of information access from anywhere, any device, inside the room, outside the room, on their phone, on their tablet, at home. So having that consistent desktop look and feel, and knowing that the applications are exactly the same, there's not a different buttons because it's on a mobile device. I think that's definitely helped our training and our use of the applications. So it's definitely improved the productivity of clinicians and physicians. We actually have a story where one of our cardiologists was at a line in Costco, and he had a call for it to read a stat EKG, and he was able to do it from his iPhone while he was waiting in line, instead of having to wait the 20 minutes to get through the line or leave and drive home or back to the hospital. So having that kind of access definitely has made a difference in patients' outcomes.
Okay, great. Next question is, how has user virtualization affected your ability to meet with regulatory and compliance standards such as HIPAA?
I'll take this one too. I think compliance and internal audit, they definitely are fans of our virtualization efforts, demonstrating that now a user can only log into their personal desktop at one place at one time, and only deliver the applications that they're needing to access based upon Active Directory. And then we have that driven from our HR PeopleSoft system to associate those applications by role and job description. And by having everything in the data center and no data on the endpoint device, especially in the mobile world where like an iPad or a laptop, there is no patient information stored locally at all. And so if the device does go missing, we're able to just change their Active Directory credentials to disable access to that desktop and application, so making it a lot more secure than applications that would have been delivered and running natively via VPN or other mechanisms.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Our next question is, what EMR software are you using at Kawea?
Our primary EMR is Siemens Sorian for clinicals, and we still have Siemens Envision for financials. We do have a lot of other ancillary systems, McKesson, some other ones for ER, Poseidon Navigator, some GE Centricity, so hundreds of other applications, but our main EMR is Siemens.
Okay, great, thank you. This next one's a little bit longer, so you have to bear with me here for a second. It says, we have virtualized our front-end servers via VMware and have monitoring software and back-end servers running applications and databases servers, all using SAN environment for storage. Our biggest issue is performance, and how will adding Appsense help?
I think on we use VMware for virtualizing all of our servers and connected to SAN storage as well. What we found is that in delivering the applications virtualized provides that data center backbone connectivity. So some of our feedback and what made us even really think about expanding our Citrix environment beyond just published applications back in 2007 to actually using it internally was we were getting feedback from physicians that how come clinical applications are faster over at home on my DSL than when I'm at a nursing station inside the hospital. And then, so we, explain to them, well, because of the pipes, you're really running it's really running in the data center right on the main backbone switch in the server room, and it's not having to come across from another location over a wide area link, or even over 100 megabit connection to the desktop. So to be able to provide that fast information access inside the data center, only have to provide screen, sharing the screen over the ICA protocol, which is lower bandwidth. We're able to deliver a better user experience.
Let me go ahead and piggyback off that, Nick, if you don't mind. Appsense also has a deal called a performance manager, where we can we could specify based on your type of performance issues, say if it's a if it's a CPU runaway app or memory leak of some sort, we can set different performance policies that choke that process down. So if it's a runaway process at 100%, it's going to choke that process down gradually to where it's manageable and the other users don't suffer or the box suffer. So there is different tools from Appsense that definitely help with performance issues on either Citrix, VMware, or any type of fact line or whatever. So as long as you have the agent installed, you can do those specific policies based on whatever issues performance-wise you have.
Yeah, and the performance manager is definitely a valuable tool in a shared server-based computing environment, so like Terminal Server or XenApp. So if you have some applications that tend to want to take the whole CPU, lots of CPU cycles, if they're not doing anything, that's one way you can still kind of choke it down and still provide fast access to the other users, so that one user is not completely consuming the CPU and leaving the other 12 users stranded until that person exits out of that application.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question is how much effort is required upfront with preparing a new application to be pushed out to the users, an upgraded version of Siemens Pharmacy, for example?
I think that's a great question, and actually Siemens Pharmacy is one that gets updated quite frequently in their suite of applications, and so we actually just redesigned some of our processes of that. But in the past, we were able to just go into the Appsense Environment Manager, change it to the new path, and deploy that out when it was time to go live with the new version. On the back end, on our vDisk, on our provisioning server, having that, updating the golden image, we would usually get it ahead of time and test, and so we could install it concurrently with the current prod version, so it could be the new version be installed ahead of time in a different directory. And so we deploy that ahead of time, and then at the day of go live, we would just change the pointer. Our new method is we actually just have it launch to basically a script, and have this on a highly available redundant server in our VMware environment, and then we have that script launched to the path, so that we don't have to change it at go live. We just have to change that one script, and it would the users wouldn't have to log off and log back in to get to the new icon. So we're waiting to try it out on our next one, next update, I think in a couple months, but we've tried it in our test environment, and it seems to work really well.
Okay, great. Our next question is what kind of maintenance is required on the virtual hardware infrastructure to keep everything running smoothly?
I'll start, and I think Stephen can chime in. With our Citrix farm, we have multiple servers. So we have 33 Xen servers, so physical servers, and so in that we have the different variations of the vDisk of what we're providing the user. So there's automatic load balancing and failover in that environment. So if we lose a physical box, the users are able to just reconnect and connect back to a desktop on the other server. So there is inherent in Citrix in the farm, as long as you have more than one server tied to that application, it will load balance, and the user can reconnect to a desktop and get to their applications. Having, N+1 servers for your environment, you're able to do a rolling upgrade, so you can disable logins and then update your vDisk and then re-enable logins, and so the people, when they reconnect or re-log in, they'll get to the newer environment. So as we go from an XP look and feel to a Windows 7 look and feel, to the users can be very seamless. They just have to log off their desktop, and then when they log in, they'll be pointed to the new environment. And that's where the user virtualization with Appsense allows us to make that process seamless, so the users don't have to reset up their email and their internet favorites and their fonts and their colors. All that will be migrated to those different environments.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nick hit it right on. I don't have much to add. Using that personalization manager and whatnot, it really helps grabbing, I guess all the personalized information you want for that particular session, and delivering it across multiple platforms. So, whether it be XP or Windows 7, the profile structures change in the back end, but Appsense makes it to where you can, seamlessly go from XP to Windows 7. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Our next question is, how do you handle antivirus in your provisioned environment?
I'll go ahead and take that one. Our provisioned environment runs completely separate from our production. So all the streaming happens on a non-routed network. So we have aside from our normal antivirus, we have a secondary one set up on that network. That agent just gets pushed out to the golden image, and then we can manage it separately from our production, in keeping it on that separate network and separate domain. So having it segregated like that has gone a long way into improving performance and helping with things like antivirus and whatnot. So changes we make on our production network doesn't necessarily affect what the for example, if they're connecting to a published desktop, it doesn't affect those desktops. So we can manage it completely separately and keep performance very high.
Yeah, so we're using TapMicro Office Scan 10.5 and using the Smart Scan, so that the patterns are very minimal, and it's only really all that's really done on a central server. So we have that as on a VMware appliance, and so there's a real small footprint that has to get updated on the different virtual servers from the provisioning server.
Okay, great. Our next question is, on the iPad, are you able to use the two-touch zoom functionality on the iPad while logged onto the Windows machine?
Yes, I'm sorry, I should have demonstrated that, but yes, that's. I think I zoomed in when I looked at the patient list, and so you're able to pinch and zoom in. So that's the real benefit of the iPad versus other tablet technologies, is being able to quickly navigate and kind of zoom in, pan around, especially when you're looking at X-rays. A lot of our physicians find that using the iPad at the bedside, they pull up the patient's X-ray and actually show them, where a certain spot might be on their lung or whatever, and they've found that gives a lot of confidence to the patient, being able to, sit next to them and show them, zoom in and actually show them, versus just reading a report or trying to pull up a film up on an old light box or something like that. But yeah, it definitely works. It works very well.
Great. Another question. Does your facility issue devices to physicians, or can the physicians have his personal device provisioned?
Because of Stark Law, we can't provide devices to physicians. We do let them check them out, kind of a try before you buy, so they can make sure that the iPad's what they want to go to with versus an Android device. But we do have easy provisioning set up. We created a custom web screen that can take them right to the Citrix receiver on the App Store. So even if they're not familiar with the App Store on the iPad, it kind of helps streamline new users. It also has a link that sets up the configuration for Citrix, so they don't have to know all the, type in all the HTTP stuff. They just really need to know their username and password that they were using on their other devices. So it's Active Directory, tied Active Directory, so it's consistent. So as their password changes, it would also change on the iPad Citrix receiver.
Okay, great, thank you. Our next question, how does the Microsoft licensing work? From reading their documentation, it sounds like you need a VDA and Office license for every device a user connects from. So a physician with a smartphone, tablet, laptop, home PC, would that mean 4 licenses for that user?
No, our understanding is that because we're able to provision a desktop per user, and they're only using it one concurrently at a time because they can only have, they reconnect where they left off on the other device, we're able to actually save on a lot of software licensing because we're able to give only the software that people are authorized, where in our shared environment, we never knew what workstation a physician was going to go to, and so we had to have it installed in many places and may or may not be used, and trying to manage that using Alteris to find out the usage was always difficult. So this way, it's with Appsense and tying the AD to the applications, we're able to know who has access to what applications.
Okay, great. Next question is, what is the percent of VDI versus shared desktop?
Yeah, I'm assuming shared means like server-based computing, XenApp, and so we're about 90% XenApp currently, and as new applications and as support for Windows 7, IE9 are available in the healthcare applications, as some of the listeners might know, some vendors take a while to adopt to new IE standards, and so sometimes there's obstacles in being able to move into newer operating system technologies. We think that it'll change, that there'll be some applications that will require us to move to more VDI, and so that's again where the Appsense is strong, is that we can take the settings from XenApp and have those migrate over to VDI, to Zen Desktop or VMware View, and when the user logs in, they'll be getting the VDI environment versus the shared server-based computing environment. But again, what Stephen mentioned, the user really doesn't care if it's VDI or if it's a shared published desktop or a published desktop via XenApp. They just want access to their applications, we're with the FlexCast model, we're poised to be able to have by user be able to provide different environments and migrate them as the need changes.
Okay, thank you. I got our next question here. Can you explain more about your SSO and ProxCard environment?
Yeah, the SSO we're using is the Citrix Password Manager, which is actually bundled as part of, I believe, Platinum Edition. I don't know if it's part of Enterprise. So you have to ask your Citrix or MTM representatives on what that is. We have Platinum. And so in 2009, when we went to our first Synergy user group conference, the Citrix conference, that's when we first discovered what was included in Platinum, and then we went gangbusters after that and started deploying Password Manager, provisioning servers, and server, and switched from physical servers, trying to maintain 12 of them, make them consistent, to now then having that golden image and being able to streamline and have a consistent experience. So we use that Password Manager for SSO. Our TapNgo is actually an in-house development that we're working on, and we're hoping to share that with the public. And so we've set up a site called tapngo.org, and hope to have something in the next few weeks where we can share that. We're using RFID readers and HID cards, the same ones that you use for building access. And so all it does is reconnect to that published desktop, and then we're looking at how to make that work with Zen Desktop also.
Okay, great, thank you. And I think in the interest of time, we'll have this next question be the last one we ask here on the live webinar. What model thin clients are you using in the inpatient rooms?
We have a couple different models, but our standard and our majority is the Hewlett Packard, and our reason for that is we went all wireless. And Citrix having that low ICA bandwidth allows us to do that, and so the HPs have a built-in 802.11. They can do A, or B, or they can do the 5 gigahertz or the 2.4 gigahertz. And so we have our thin clients on the 802.11a network. As we have a lot of clinical devices, we have Draeger Medical for patient monitoring, Alaris pumps, and those only work on the B. So we're offloading our computer and thin clients over to the A network just to kind of have a different frequency than our clinical devices.
Okay, great, thank you. And like I said before, in the interest of time, it is just 1 minute before the top of the hour. So we do have all of your questions that have come in. There were quite a few. We'll do our best to answer those for you. And thank you to everyone who did submit questions. Thank you both, Nick and Stephen, for that excellent presentation, for answering all those questions. And just a final reminder to all of our attendees, a full archive of this presentation will be available at a later date, along with the PDF version of the slides, and we'll send those links to you in a follow-up email. And we'd like to thank you for joining us today. And on behalf of Government Health IT, HIMSS, Appsense, and MTM, we'd like to wish you a great day. Thank you very much for joining us.